Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Attention Please podcast now on video. If you like this podcast, kindly like, share, subscribe. You know what to do. So, one of the persistent themes of this podcast, for those of you who have followed it long enough, is the notion of happiness. And I revisit it from time to time between cricket, politics, and movies. I thought it would be, since this is Mahashtami, well, happy Mahashtami to everyone. It's worthwhile visiting it. And the reason why I'm talking about is for many years, especially after I moved to the US, Durga Puja time brings about what I would call ambivalent feelings. And I realize, let me clarify what I mean by that there is almost a pressure to feel happy. Now, I think millennials call it FOMO, fear of missing out. You're under pressure that you, by doing something or by taking some action, there are all these other alternate things that you could have done that you didn't do, especially with respect to Durga Puja. Now, I wonder why I feel pressurized, and that kind of affects my happiness during Durga Puja. And other people might feel it at other festivals that have some significance for them in terms of what it meant to them in the past. So one of the reasons, at least I personally feel, and I'm deconstructing my own, I wouldn't say unhappiness, but my disquiet. Let me put it like that. So one of the reasons I think is advertisements. Advertisements, in my opinion, especially advertisements themed around Durga Puja or Diwali. Diwali doesn't have much of significance for me, but Durga Puja does. I think anybody who grows up in Bengal, it is significant. So whatever, if you're not Bengali, then replace whatever I'm saying with the festival of your choice. But one of the reasons I think is advertisements, especially that build around the theme of Durga Puja, because they present a picture of almost perfectness. And I mean, that's really what advertising is. It is to create a sense of dissatisfaction in you, so that once you're dissatisfied and unhappy, you reach for your pocket, you reach for your credit card. And so I think that some of the advertisements, and it's kind of shallow to think that advertisements would affect us, but they do, because false memories of undiluted happiness is, I think, implanted, inception like. Beautiful men, women in perfect environs, dhak, dhunuchi nach, and adda, and Mimi Chakraborty. None of this is actually true, I think, at least not for the most of us. It creates what we believe should have been what Durga Puja is, and perhaps it also in our mind kind of convinces us that was the way Durga Puja was like growing up, but it wasn't, at least it wasn't for me. And I think it wasn't for a lot of other people. It wasn't that beautiful. So whenever we feel, oh my goodness, whenever we compare our current situation to reality, one of the things that you have to consider is the reality a reality at all, or is it something which is synthetic, which has been put into your mind by advertisements? So the reason why many people will say that I've basically lost the plot by deconstructing or even questioning happiness. But that, I think, is one of the things about being an adult. When you become an adult, happiness, I also believe, is a conscious activity. It's like eating. Now, when you're young, at least when I was young, I ate without thinking. The quantity I ate, what I ate, food was there, I ate it. If it was good, if it tasted good, that's it. That's the only validation that food needed. And moments were also like that they were enjoyed, or they were bitter, or they were terrible, but there was nothing that I could do. I never thought why I felt that way. But as you grow older, everything becomes, and I believe you approach your death, to look at it in a morbid way, every moment essentially becomes a teachable moment. You experience the moment and you try to understand why things happened the way they did, and can I use that knowledge to make my next moment better? Because as you grow older, you tend to appreciate that moments and time have value to them. When you're young, you don't think of these things at all. And if you're thinking of these things when you're very young, then yeah, maybe you should not be reading the books that you are. So Durga Puja was a time that, why was Durga Puja a happy time when I was growing up? I mean, moderately happy, not as happy as the advertisements show, but happy nonetheless. Durga Puja had some significance because it was a time when you met people. You met people you liked, relatives, friends, mostly relatives. I had a lot of relatives, mostly some of the relatives whom you liked. Now, you didn't like all the relatives, let's be honest. And you would meet them normally at weddings and funerals, but you would be guaranteed to meet them during Durga Puja, typically, not all of them, and that's because, why? Because Durga Puja was a time when all offices had holidays. So people just met in those days and there was no social media or anything. So interactions were much more intense, I believe, because meeting physically was the only way you could meet. I mean, telephone was very expensive and social media non-existent. So that, I think, gave the impetus. So when I think of Durga Puja, I think that in a way that can never be true anymore, because there are just so many other alternate places that we meet, especially with Zoom. So it's not that interactions are kind of concentrated during Durga Puja. So that part of it, regardless of my life choices, and I've made some life choices which I'll come to, it would never have been the same, because everybody wouldn't confluence at the same point of time. Now, my problem is that, and this is an extension of this, is the people whom I really like at this point of time, the people whom I really want to meet, who I feel a kinship for. And again, these could be relatives, these could be friends, these could be people I met from the blog. So again, the connections we form are not a function of your blood ties. See, I don't have to meet them at Pujo, and I can't meet them at Pujo also. Many of them are not, none of my relatives are, except one, are in my immediate vicinity. They're all in a different country. And now you could say that I could have made friends here, as many Bengalis and many Indians do, that they make friends here. Indian friends, non-Indian friends. And the reason I haven't is, one is, of course, the fact that I work and then I write and record things like this. So that doesn't leave me with a lot of time for socializing. Socializing, like any activity, needs some investment if you're trying to do it in a sustainable way. So that's one of the things which I personally have kind of deprioritized in my life. And it's not something which I regret also. I think it's okay. I mean, given the kind of person I am, and again, given the fact that when you grow old, you get to analyze the kind of person you are, what you like, and you just don't blindly follow things that everybody socializes, so I have to socialize. No, that's not true. You have to think about whether this works for you or not. So I've consciously avoided these kinds of perfunctory relationships, just relationships of small conversations. Now, I'm not good with small conversations, and sometimes you have to have small conversations. You have to have small conversation with the parents of kids your kids play with, but it's just not something which would make me happy. And remember, coming back to what I said, why do I feel a pressure to be happy during Durga Puja? And that means that I'm not being happy normally. So now, one thing which I don't do, which most of you who know me know, is that I don't normally go to Bengali Association organized Durga Pujas. Now, if I did that, I would perhaps have a simulation of what Durga Puja used to be when I was growing up. Now, I could definitely go do that. And I think the only people for whom what I'm going to say doesn't apply are people who organize the Durga Pujas. But if you're not one of the Durga Puja organizers, and again, being part of a Bengali association or being part of an India association you have to be extensively social in order to do that successfully. So as I said, that's something which is not part of my life as of now. So US pujas you can go to. A lot of people say, oh, no, why don't you go and attend the Durga Puja? And many people do. They just go there. And to me, it seems like it's kind of a ticked off the puja bit. It's the quality of life list that I have. And I ticked it off. So I've done Durga Puja for 2022. I went to. And what does it really entail? If you're not one of the organizers, you get up, you wear ethnic Bengali costume, you drive, you pay there at the stall, the tickets, and you sit there with the family, with the exact same people you went with, and you smile ambiguously at strangers. Most of them don't smile back, some of them do, and then you drive back. I mean, that's it. That's really, you go there, you take some selfies in front of the Durga Murti, and then you come back. That's really what it is. And that's when people post it on social media, and that's it. Durga Puja is done. Now, my experience, and I've been told that Durga Pujas organized by Bangladeshis are different. It could be, but I haven't been there. But at least my experience is when you go to these places and you don't know someone, they don't talk to you. So this is not even a socialization. It's not that you go there and then people talk and they like, no, it's not that. So strangers don't talk to each other. And honestly, I don't think that you can even blame them. Even if I was going there, people will say, who do you go and talk? I don't either. Because I think, and this is unfortunately a concomitant of today's woke days, is that I think everyone is afraid of offending and of coming across as being offensive. So conversations are by generally as anodyne and banal. So why have it? Especially if you're not good at small talk, especially if you don't like small talk. What are you going to gain out of it? What is the happiness that you get from this kind of inoffensive, inobtrusive, maintaining boundaries kind of conversation? You'd say, what am I saying? But it is true. And I'm not saying that I like to have my, I'm not blaming anyone per se, but I'm just saying that the kind of place we live in, in a previous generation, people would say things like, when are you going to have kids? Or when will you get married? And today they're seen rightfully, I would say, as being intrusive. So these kind of mashima conversations, they never happen. Nobody gets close. Nobody wants to be your friend because everybody's afraid of being your friend. So what usually ends up happening is, unless you already have a circle, which again, I already established I don't, you essentially go with the exact same circle you came with. In my case, my circle is my wife and daughter. So why should I drive someplace, pay somebody else money just for that selfie? I could just as well have it at home. So now once I accept this, I think the pressure kind of goes down. I don't feel the obligation to go because I just don't feel that any of us can increase our circle. And now that I have this realization, I just don't feel the pressure anymore. And I used to at one point of time. So happiness, I believe, is something which brings me to the reason why I did this part. So what should we do for Durga Puja? So what I do for Durga Puja, we've been doing for years. So we organize a little bit Durga Puja in our home. What is idle? Go to the Indian groceries, buy some sweets, dress up. That part of it definitely shouldn't be just like any other weekend. That's not, my daughter, that's, for me, maybe it just left up to me. If I was a single guy, I wouldn't have dressed up either. But there's a family, it's a nice thing to do, spend some time together. And that I believe is really the essence of enjoying something that you once used to enjoy in a different way. So that life with Durga Puja, it's never going to come back. I've taken life choices. I've left India for decades. So even if I went back to Kolkata for Durga Puja, who would I go out with at this point of time? Everybody has their own friend circles. And again, that's one way. At least in India, you can go out, and pandal hopping is a spectacular thing, in my opinion. So there's some of that. But in the US, there's really, as I said, there's really nothing that comes out, in my opinion, if you don't have a circle of friends like I don't. So what exactly is happiness? So happiness is, it's something which you can never really schedule, in my opinion. It's not like a WebEx. It happens it's found in unexpected things, not big things, but small. And you don't even know beforehand what that thing is. That's the thing, you can't schedule it. If you try to do it, then you feel the pressure because you have expectations that this should lead to this amount of happiness. And that usually doesn't happen. Something else happens in between that. You're going to have a dinner and then suddenly the fridge stops working. So life gets in the way of happiness, and that sometimes gets to you. So happiness, you shouldn't expect will happen at a time when you expect it to. That doesn't mean you shouldn't pursue it, but realize that it's not going to happen on your schedule. The universe works according to its own schedule. So the thing about, especially this is true during festive seasons, is one should have the ability to essentially be flexible in the way you enjoy things. It's never going to be the way it was in the past. You're not the same person that you were in the past. You just can't go out and pig out. That was one of the joys that I had in Durga Puja. Just go and eat everything. There were two things really that I enjoyed in Durga Puja most of all. First of all, no studies. Again, doesn't make any sense for me anymore. And the ability to eat whatever I wanted at any point of time, walking around and eating. And it's not that I can't afford to anymore, but my health doesn't allow me to eat like that. So, and now should it allow anybody who's middle-aged like I am to eat without thought? I mean, that's to put it mildly. So you cannot define your happiness in terms of how you used to feel it, no matter how what the advertisements tell you. So you need to be flexible in terms of what exactly makes you happy. So the pressure, I realize, the pressure to live Durga Puja in the way I used to live it and experience those same sensations, which I now realize is never going to happen. But that doesn't mean that you cannot create new definitions of happiness. That doesn't mean that happiness is going to pass you by. Happiness is always there. It's just in a different way. And that's, to me, is once I realize that I don't have to actively drive somewhere to get that happiness will come to me in a certain way. Once I do that, I believe that's the way of relieving this pressure during the festive season to be happy. Because a lot of us aren't happy during the festive season. There are people to take care of, financial problems. Fortunately, at this point of time, I don't have that, but I could very well. And even if you have that, it doesn't mean that there is no happiness. Happiness will come. Happiness will come at a time when you're not noticing. That's the thing. It will come. The important thing for you is to absorb the happiness. It's to live in the moment and to enjoy whatever it is you get and not try to parse the present with the grammar of the past. So anyways, thank you for listening. And once again, everyone, happy Durga Puja and take care of yourself and of each other. Bye-bye.